Hey, this is Ross Payne with Roleplaying Public Radio. This is RPPR episode 148. That's 148. When the Fat Alien Sings, because we're going to be talking about space operas.
Woo!
Thank you, Tom, for the title.
You're welcome.
We're doing this episode because the Red Markets campaign we talked about previously has kind of fallen apart because of real life scheduling issues.
Damn it, real life.
Yeah, damn it, real life. It's on a hiatus. We will finish it at some point because Caleb still needs to finish playtesting those, mass combat rules.
So he can kill us all.
But in the meantime, I went through my list of ever-growing list of games that I have bought and have not run yet. And Ashen Stars came up, and Tom jumped on that immediately.
Yeah.
Because you get to be a bug person in that game. And
hi, I'm Tom. Have we met, Ross?
yeah.
I'm a half-ton armadillo man. Does that count?
In fact, I don't think any of the players in the game are human. Like,
no, the Witless, our captain.
Yeah, the NPC
more on
captain.
him. Yeah, more on him later.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in the anecdotes. So, anyways, we're and then of course we've seen, all of us, I think by now have seen Thor Ragnarok. Oh yeah. So we're just kind of in a space opera mood right now. So. That's what I want to talk about, and that's what we're going to talk about. Space opera as a genre or combination of genres, and then, of course, how to use them in role-playing games, what we like about space operas, what we don't like about space operas, all that fun stuff.
And we're going to talk into microphones about it.
That is
what we're going to do.
That's what a podcast is.
And you're going to listen to us and either enjoy it or flame us terribly in the comments.
Or not listen.
But please consider our feelings.
Yeah.
Nothing's more pathetic than when we try.
Of course, we have a bit of news. I do want to talk about... I went to PatreCon a couple weekends ago. It is a conference for Patreon creators. It was hosted by Patreon for the Patreon, creators. Patreon, in other words. It was in Los Angeles. I had a great time. I met a lot of other creators, other podcasters. Fraser Kane, who does a astronomy podcast. Then, of course, other creators as well, like Bob. She runs a webcomic called The Demon Underground, which I looked into. I haven't really archive binged, but it's about demons in their underground, and it's very well drawn.
That's a good place for demons.
Yeah, I apparently. And then let's see here, Ninja Kitty, who does erotic art, and
yes,
just a lot of very interesting, eclectic mix of artists, writers, podcasters, singers, songwriters, and of course they had Patreon employees there who gave these workshops on how to improve your Patreon experience. I'm going to try and incorporate some of those lessons into the RPPR Patreon, so stay tuned. I'm looking into figuring out how to make the unofficial RPPR Discord into the official RPPR Patreon Discord. There's a way to do that. And then there are other apps that you can integrate in there, and there's other rewards. Oh, there's going to be Patreon Lens, which is a new feature coming out where basically it's like Snapchat, but for patrons. So I can take photos and videos up to 15 seconds and then make them for patrons only. So I'll try to integrate it into our game sessions to where, like, if, someone crit succeeds or crit fails, I can, like, do a quick little recording of that. Just the reactions at the table. So when Caleb, gets his 6th crit fail in the row and storms away from the table,
wah, wah.
I can get a little video of that, or something like that. Or when we're doing war games. So that's something to look forward to. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of interesting speeches. There was actually one speech by James Higa, who used to work for Steve Jobs, and he talked about negotiating, and they specifically did not record that, and I can't really, they said don't blog specifically about it. He was really he talked about in part the reason that he didn't want recordings of it is because there's this industry of death of around Steve Jobs about people who had, I had a meeting with Steve Jobs, so I can tell you all about him, that kind of thing. And so he didn't want to cash in on that. So, but he talked about negotiating. And that was what his speech was about. And what was fascinating was how much of it applies to actually red markets. Research the person you're negotiating with. Figure out what they're interested in. Weak spots and soft spots. And appeal to that. whoa, those rhetorical tools are not just in the game. They actually make sense in real life. So
live your life through Red Markets.
Yes, exactly. Buy Caleb's book. That brings me to my other bit of news. Red Markets. It's available in print and PDF on Indie Press Revolution. It's also available in Drive-Thru RPG as a PDF if you just want the PDF. So if you want to support Red Markets and Caleb,
and who doesn't?
We all do. We all love Caleb. As stressed out as he has been, we're going to record a game design workshop episode where Caleb can vent. And I can try to, talk him down from the ledge about shipping.
Yeah, you need some help with that one, Ross.
This might have to be a full round table.
Wrap a Red Cross blanket around him. Give him some coffee.
Exactly.
Coffee or never mind.
Yeah, no, definitely the blankets. It has to be like the end of an '80s action movies where he's sitting in the back of the ambulance with a blanket,
staring into the middle distance.
Yeah, exactly. And get Red Markets on Drive-Thru RPG, or if you want the print book. For both, it's only $50 or $20 just for the PDF. So, and if you buy it on Drive-Thru RPG, please review it because that helps. And
we love reviews.
So, don't forget to rate and review RPPR on iTunes and Stitcher or whatever podcasting app you're using. Spencer's so good about doing that on the Mix 6 that I always forget to do that. And don't forget, we have a Patreon, RPPR, patreon.com/RPPR. Please back our Patreon. So with all that plugging out of the way, Space Opera. Let's just go around the table. Everyone, because I brought all three of you here. You haven't had much chance to talk. Dan, tell what is Space Opera to you?
I mean, I could just go for the tried and true standard. My very first space opera growing up was, in fact, Star Wars. That was
Star Wars. Yeah,
it was a first for many people.
Yeah. Of course, that's historically speaking, there's Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, which are obviously inspired Star Wars, but for basically every person who's alive today, it's Star Wars.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Since you made me go first, I had to go for the obvious one.
No,
you bit that bullet for us. We thank you.
Yeah. Shaun, what is a space opera to you?
I've been overthinking this one because it's
please do.
It is a complicated subgenre. Well, subgenres in general are complicated. All right.
Yeah.
Like a quick aside. Like cyberpunk no longer means what it originally meant. Now it just means 80s flashback with a metal arm. Something
and wires.
I think space operas kind of reached a similar point of semantic drift. Because for me, what I would always look back to, it started with Star Wars, but then I would look to Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. I actually used to watch the old serials because they were awesome. Ice Pirates, stuff like. Quality film.
Space herpes.
Yes. And then the more I looked at it, I tried to, I went back through, tried to research the term a little bit before this, because I just assumed it was the old school pulpy, there's going to be some epic combat. Mm-hmm. It turns out space opera was initially a dismissive term.
Yeah.
It was like a point of disregard to say you're not real sci-fi. It's just a space opera that's not crunchy enough.
It's not hard sci-fi.
Yeah, your villains are too evil. Your good guys are too good. The quests are too epic. And then one of the overall consensuses that I kind of picked up on is it's like a chivalric romance in space.
Yeah, I could see that. It certainly has a lot of those elements. Tom?
For me, it's... I think I watched Star Trek before I watched Star Wars.
Okay.
But I never considered Star Trek a space opera.
Parts of it are. I would say Star Trek it alternates.
I think to me it's more of a procedural in space.
I think for Star Trek it depends largely on which Star Trek you're watching. Mm-hmm. Like if you're watching Deep Space Nine or Voyager, those are more space opera-y than your traditional hard sci-fi Star Trek.
Well, certainly the new Star Trek movies have been space opera, I think.
Right.
Big epic
but
struggle.
It's epic, and also I think it has to be expansive too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that are cool sci-fi, but they kind of limit themselves to like a single solar system. I don't consider that space opera. I kind of think it needs to be more expansive than that.
I think that's true too. Yeah, you can't really have a space opera that's confined to a single. Even planet, I think.
No, I think it has
to be in space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It's unpopular, but yeah, I don't consider Firefly to be a space opera.
Okay.
It's because it's there's many planets, but it's one star system.
I think it is.
That's fine. I mean, it's because also like what is a space opera is totally subjective.
Yeah. I think a space opera for me is a combination. It takes elements, and it depends on what it can. Space opera emulates multiple different genres, but not all at the same time.
No.
So you have to kind of like think about what space opera, what element of aspect of space opera you're looking at. Because Star Wars, for example, is a great example because it has all the different parts of space opera. For one thing, it does go down very low and gritty at times, like especially in New Hope on Tatooine with the cantina. But even in Return of the Jedi,
it's a whole galaxy, but it seems lived in.
Right? Yeah, it seems lived in, but like it has these dirty gangsters and smugglers and crime bosses. But on the other hand, it also there's very much a very strong swashbuckling element, and swashbuckling is about at its core about the loss of the throne and like regaining the rightful, a usurper taking over the throne of government. And then the rightful heir reclaiming it. Like that's the plot of swashbuckling. And in this case, is obviously the Empire versus the Rebellion. Blah blah blah. But and swashbuckling obviously has sword fighting. Hey, weird. Dueling as an element. And then of course, as Shaun mentioned, chivalric romance. Yeah. That's definitely a major element. And then
roguish, roguish types to throw in the mix.
Well, that's again swashbuckling. So the first element I would categorize as like Western. That would definitely be a major element certainly in our post Star Wars definition of space opera. And obviously Firefly really leans on that. Chivalric romance, that would be more like, I would say Dune. Obviously, it's a space opera.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And that would definitely be the chivalric, kind of how Game of Thrones kind of style. Not so much as, there's swashbuckling in there, but swashbuckling is very much a black and white. The wrongful person is on the throne, and the rightful heir needs to get it back. I think that's kind of the difference in the chivalric romance. Everyone's kind of driven by their passions, and there's really bad people, but even the good people are kind of bastards at times. Like King Arthur is not 100% good.
Yeah, especially when you read some of the older material.
So
it gets downright picaresque.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of so space opera is a really broad thing, and it encompasses a lot. So basically anything that's not very hard sci-fi driven, very idea driven, like what can science and technology do. It's very much set dressing, like it's not like the spaceships are analogs for naval ships, planets are different islands or continents, So there's also like that fourth genre, the sort of master and commander, naval exploration, Age of Sail kind of fiction, which of course goes into swashbuckling too. So I guess, so yeah, it's a broad thing. So
just because there's space doesn't mean everything is space opera. Like Shaun and I were talking about.
Yeah.
Chronicles of Riddick is a space opera.
Sure.
But Pitch Black was not.
Oh, that's a really good distinction.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Dan?
Sure.
Okay. Are you familiar with those?
Yes. Of course I am.
Pitch Black, there was a ship, but it took place on one planet.
It was one planet. You could still... that's very... Yeah, it's not even a Western. It's a horror movie.
It's a survival horror.
So, to kind of like sidetrack this a little bit, if we're going to put Firefly in as a space opera, what about Cowboy Bebop?
I would say, yeah.
I kind of don't feel it.
I don't either.
It feels more kind of...
because it doesn't have the other elements. It's definitely in a space opera setting, but it's not a space opera.
It's interplanetary, but not heavily leaning on a lot of these bigger epic elements. It's more of a dark kind of crime series with some.
Well, like you define it, picaresque. It's about morally ambiguous characters having morally ambiguous life journeys. And
it's usually something on a smaller scale.
Picaresque is something I should put in the show notes because that's not people are. You recognize it when you see it, but
when you say it out loud,
it's an obscure term. I think.
Probably. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Is it like Picaresque comes from like the name of the author who wrote these stories from like the 18th century. So
Yeah.
I only learned about it through Wikipedia. So
Thanks, Wikipedia.
Thanks, Hive Brain.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's just that issue of like, we could probably sit here for like hours going, is this a space opera? And then arguing about it for like, and then while trying to look these things up, I found an earlier definition, a set of definitions that like immediately boots out half of what we're saying.
Yeah.
Brian Aldiss actually created a list of like 10 bullet points. Brian Aldiss, a British sci-fi author.
Yeah.
Earned an OBE for his writing. I haven't read terribly much of his stuff, but he made a list of 10 points. Do you want me to read them off or just go over the very basics?
Give me the basics. Give me the essentials.
The essentials are pretty much, again, it's over-the-top action. You're going to have some elements of like, highfalutin swashbuckling fighting, but your villains, I think it was like villains have souls blacker than a black hole.
Okay.
The heroes may not be pure, but their ultimate goal is the best good possible. That kind of
reclaiming
thing.
the air. Yeah,
Entire kingdoms or nations or planets are at stake.
Yeah.
The stakes are super high. Everybody's
that's a good point.
Extreme in everything. It is epic by the oldest definition of the word.
Maybe that's why Firefly doesn't feel as much as space opera because it's not as high stakes.
Because most of the time,
most of it, I mean, there are times.
But most of the time, the stakes are how are we going to afford food for the next month?
Yeah.
Well, and if Red Marcus has taught us anything, those are pretty high stakes.
I know, but I'm talking like as far as the galaxy is concerned.
Steak.
Right.
I like steak.
Well, and I think that's the Firefly issue is similar to Cowboy Bebop. It's a space opera setting. But the characters that the story is focusing on are definitely not telling a space
So
opera
that kind of
story.
brings up a distinction that I was kind of thinking about. Space opera as a setting versus space opera as a genre.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. Because like even when you go back to Star Wars, which the main movies clearly are space opera. That is pure space opera. But the extended universe,
like the Ewok Adventure, that's not a space opera.
Okay, I wasn't going to bring that up.
What about?
Fuck you!
Hold on, wait a minute. What about Battle for Endor?
Same thing.
All right, no, I'll go with you on that one.
Well, wait, was Battle for Endor like a whole split off thing, or are you talking about just the part in Return of the Jedi?
No. There was 2 Ewok movies. The first Ewok Adventure was just the Ewok Adventure, and then you had the Ewok Adventure,
The Battle for Endor,
where
they had space witches.
Yeah.
I like that.
And a super fast tiny Ewok, and another guy that crash landed who had a really cool grapple hook gun. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
grappling hook.
It was the
because
only
the Ewoks definitely like the Ewok battles in Return of the Jedi are definitely part of a space opera.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so yeah, maybe an entire movie just dealing with the Battle for Endor, maybe it's not. I was actually thinking of like years ago, I read these novels that were based on young Han Solo's career.
Oh yeah, I read some of those.
And like where he's smuggling fighter engines, the engines for fighters, and these are really crappy engines, and he's just like selling them to the rebels, and he knows that these rebels are outgunned by the TIE fighters, and so he watches a battle between them, and they're all just getting slaughtered by the TIE fighters or whatever, and he's like, "Yep, I feel kind of bad about this. Well, got my payment, better go." And I was like, "That's not space opera, like in terms of that, because that's more of a western or a noir." That's another element now is like the noir is kind of
creeping into everything.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not going to argue against that, by the way.
No.
I like that aspect. It's just sometimes certain elements do get pushed a little hard without it actually paying any kind of mind to the origins of the subgenre.
So Firefly, I mean, I think in some of the episodes it goes into full space opera things when they're dealing more with like the massive empire, and then of course
the fate of Earth,
River, and all that.
I'm sorry, that's spoiled.
Serenity is a space opera movie.
Yeah.
Serenity.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. The TV show definitely not.
And I'm sorry for spoiling over a decade old movie, folks. But
hot take here.
What?
So we have space opera as a genre and space opera as a setting. So in terms of role-playing games, like what does this mean for you? So for me, I'm running Ashen Stars, which is very much a space opera. It's described as a gritty, like it's a specific setting. Like there's it's not a total toolkit game because there's here's the Combine, here is this Galactic Empire, here are these 7 species you can be, and here's specific names. So it's not you don't make up your own empire, you make up your own setting. But it's meant as a toolkit kind of thing in that you can sort of define what the game's going to be about and what the stakes are. So we're doing space opera as a setting, not so much as a genre, because like the sort of thing I've set up here.
It's one planet.
It's one planet, and two teams are helping this one planet survive a crisis that's going to, first going to be little problems, and you're going to find out what the big overall problem is. And that's kind of the story arc. So it will take kind of the Firefly route where it starts small, and then by the end of it, it'll be like, oh, the implications are big. So,
but speaking of noir bleeding into things, it is based in the Gumshoe system.
Therefore,
it's kind of a detective story in that respect.
It's definitely going to be a mystery. Like,
so instead of
what's going on,
coming straight off the farm and finding out I've got me a laser sword and going off to go battle the far gone empire, we're professionals who are used to investigating things.
We're doing a job.
So yeah, I guess so when you're wanting to do, that's the first thing is when you're wanting to do a space opera, like what do you mean? Like, are you doing it the genre or the setting?
You can do both. You can do kind of neither.
Because even in Star Wars, like the role playing games, they have they make that split because they have like the heroic rebellion, then they have the one what's Edge of the Empire, that's your smugglers and criminals and that kind of thing. Wasn't that the game you were trying to run, Tom?
Yeah, it's actually it's Scoundrels and Villains.
Scoundrels and Villains, sorry.
Which is actually that's the honestly it's to be honest, it's the kind of setting I would most like to do in Star Wars.
So you're more not the genre, but more the setting.
Yeah, again, the genre itself is I kind of like the genre. I love the genre, but when I'm doing a story and running a game, I like to keep it a little more like. You're probably not going to change the galaxy.
Okay,
so but you're definitely going to change. You're definitely going to change your lives and the lives of those who are close with you.
Yeah, so more of the Picaresque thing, something about their lives, and
I mean, because good space operas are great settings to do stuff in. Mm-hmm. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah,
but actually, I think in the case of Star Wars, I think just playing. As members of the rebellion might get a little old because you're just like, and okay, here's your assignment this time.
Well, I mean, you can be part of the rebellion, but then just say you're the movers and shakers instead of like, God, I can't even think of her name. Daisy Ridler's character,
Jane Erso.
Yeah. Instead of her.
Doing the dirty work.
Yeah, and no, not the dirty work. Being like the main heroes of the rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being Mon Mothma.
Oh yeah,
Senator. Organa.
Or being Luke Skywalker, replacing them with your characters. So
that gets a little tiresome though.
Does it? Like, we haven't done a whole lot of that. I mean, personally.
Well, we haven't done it on RPPR, but I've played in a lot of Star Wars RPGs, and you run into a lot of the problems of like what cannon armor is.
Oh, okay.
And because that's what it boils down to is that when you're dealing, that's the bigger issue of playing in an established campaign in an established setting, is that I can't replace Luke Skywalker. The Skywalkers are supposed to deal with Skywalker problems.
But, so what I'm saying is, like, if you're a GM, like, be aware that that's a thing, that's a thing that people think, and then, like, rip it to shreds. Be like, no, fuck it, Luke's dead. You're the Jedi now.
Because I think...
it's already an alternate universe. Fuck it.
Yeah, we actually did an episode about playing in established universes. And we said like in a normal game, if Darth Vader shows up, you done fucked up.
Unless you want to make it the game.
Yeah, make it clear that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, make it a surprise to the players, but as a GM, structure the game just like Darth Vader's just another boss. Like he's
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the escape from Cloud City. You're watching the Millennium Falcon leave. And it's shot down.
Yeah. Or the Millennium Falcon turns around and blows up Cloud City because they're player characters and they're fucking murder.
Nat 20.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just practice for the next Death Star run because you're making another one now. So, anyways,
or you just have the SS blaster rifle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or the Emperor just has a heart attack.
Yeah.
Okay, dude, the dude's old.
Well, I mean that's not very space operating.
But it's if you want to shake up the system, the world.
Yeah. Unless the players use the Force to give him a heart attack,
or they drug him.
That's total dark side, though.
Yeah. So So I feel like that's the first bit of real advice. Feel free to rip the if you're using an established setting, feel free to rip it up and be like, if you want to do space opera as a genre, that's what you have to do is rip it up and be like,
now of course
you're the movers and shakers. That's what the genre's about.
But the genre that if you're going to do that, start them at like. You're the rookie from whatever.
Oh yeah. No, you're a moisture farmer. Yeah.
Dirt farmer.
Yeah,
You're Kevin.
Moisture farmer.
You're Kevin Star Chaser.
Kevin Star Chaser,
Exactly.
moisture farmer with
and
a
by the
blaster
time
rifle.
and by the time you're done, you're plowing a giant antimatter bomb down the Death Star.
Yeah. The whole hero's journey from levels 1 to 20. Or 1 to 10 or whatever that's what the hero's journey is, isn't it, right?
Pretty much.
Don't give me this Belly of the Beast bullshit. That's me. Yeah, fucking Joseph Campbell, fucking grinder, and Maxer. So
whoa there, Blue Falcon.
But on the other hand, like. Some players, of course, aren't going to like that because that's going to be sort of the challenge is making sure everyone's on board with like we're going to ignore the canon and you guys are the heroes and you're going to be fighting Darth
That's
Vader.
Of course if you have a canon, you can make up your entire.
That's the other
setting.
point, yeah.
And if you're going for specifically for the genre, you just use other setting points as like stand-ins and then change a few of the names, a few of the details.
Yeah,
come up with your own twists. That's easy enough. If you're trying to do a in setting only, suddenly the world building is probably going to get a lot trickier. You're going to have a lot more nuanced. You're going to have to come up with what the average schmo does every day instead of worrying about, I am Space Knight. I do Space Knight things to save the space throne.
I mean, you can think about what kind of how much world building you want to put into. But if you're using an established setting that isn't like as well known as Star Wars, like I'm using Ashen Stars, which is an established setting, but no one's going to be like, oh, Senator blah blah blah.
That better be a person now.
It is now.
So if I run my dream game of an actual play of Ice Pirates, you're all on board, right?
Yeah. And we're not going to know, like, aha, this is this character who is really Ron Perlman's character.
And you won't even know about, Space Pimp. I mean,
exactly.
We would know about space herpes.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knows about that.
Yeah.
Everybody has space herpes.
Well, it's mostly it's just the ship.
Yeah. So so feel free to like mess up with the setting or just use a less well known, like basically don't use Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica or any of the things
Babylon 5, that kind of
But
stuff.
if your players insist,
You could probably get away with Babylon 5.
well, okay, but if your players insist, then screw with it.
Well, I mean, so that's if you want to do it as a genre. If you're just using it as a setting, then leave in Luke and all the other people and just have them be there as background characters. Because again,
or just accelerate into a part of the Star Wars timeline where that doesn't matter anymore.
Or in the past, the Knights of the Old Republic route.
It's another part of the galaxy way the hell over there. We're on the other outer rim doing other things where there's remnants of the Empire or the outer fringe of the Empire who are less organized.
Yeah.
Lazy storm.
Carve out your own territory, in other words.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess that's the first thing is like, are you doing genre or setting? And then like, if you're doing genre, players have to be movers and shakers, and then
or at the very least they have to end up that way.
Yeah. Well, they start out. I mean, even when they're level 1, they're the heroes of legend. Or, I mean, they're the prophesized hero. Luke Skywalker was like what level 2 or 3 by the time he nat 20'd the Death Star in New Hope. I mean, he was not.
I think
5?
he was level 6.
Because he'd only been through one dungeon, the Death Star. Like that's a lot of levels.
Hey, he went through the whole Mos Eisley scene.
Okay,
and
so
he dealt with the sand
a
raiders.
social scene.
He was also given specific training.
So maybe 4, level 4, like
4 to 5.
Yeah,
I actually used to know this when I actually owned the 35 Star Wars books.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
He ends Jedi at like level 17 or 18.
Well, sure. Well, I mean, there've been the second 2 movies. There's a lot of off-camera training scenes.
A New Hope. He's at least level 5 because then he can now start a prestige class.
We're not using fucking D20 rules for this, Tom.
Maybe you're not.
Are we going to West End Games?
Yeah.
What?
What?
So,
man, that'd be something to run.
Never. No.
What, the West End?
No, God, it's terrible.
I remember playing West End Star Wars, but I was like 12 at the time.
I mean, that's the origin of the extended universe.
I know. Okay, listen, it's interesting in its placement, but the actual system itself is an atrocity.
Wild Die.
I don't use the Force. I don't care. You're getting a dark side point because you were being a dick. Oh, God damn it.
Wait, I'm not.
There's an open game lesson version of the D6 system now. They tried to bring it back.
Oh well.
Yeah,
some things are not meant to come back.
Apparently. So I think the next thing is obviously so the heroes start out low and they work their way up regardless. But the villains, obviously, if you're doing genre versus setting, if you looking at Cowboy Bebop villains, they're fucked up people, but they're criminals and gangsters and crazy people. Like they're not Darth Vader. They're not forces of nature, except for Spike's main rival. But that's an anime convention. Yeah.
And he is meant to be every bit as badass as Spike. Only the big foil for him is that Spike tries to keep things low key.
Yeah.
His rival is like,
so
fuck
extra.
you, I will take over the mob
Yep.
by killing people with a sword.
Yep.
Here's my bird.
But so if you're doing if RPG, like the villains also have to be their presence has to be well known. I think one big difference between a lot of tabletop RPGs and fiction in general is that in RPGs, GMs tend to avoid letting the players have any sort of interaction with main villains because there's like, I shoot him in the head as soon as I see him, and I spend all my points and resources to get a nat 20. Fuck you, he's dead. Like players are really fucking pragmatic.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing PCs do, Ross. You really should introduce the villain of your Ashen Stars campaign to us right away.
Yeah.
There's ways to do it if you do it right. It's just an issue. It has to be a twist kind of thing.
So one thing, the villains have to be really fucking extra in the space opera genre. They have to be really dramatic. They have to be really passionate about what they do. They have to be really fucking evil or think that they're really fucking right, and they have to do anything,
Yeah. By any means necessary.
Which is almost a more compelling kind of evil.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to blow up this planet because it is a fucking cesspool.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'm doing it because I'm evil. No.
Or this planet's full of traitors.
So, I mean, people bitch about Kylo Ren being super angsty, but, that's basically what... I mean, he's following the tradition of what Anakin was doing in
he's a baby Vader.
Well, he's doing it better, though.
Yeah, and think of like the Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, or was it
Ming the Merciless?
Flash? Yeah, Ming the Merciless. Yeah, he's super fucking extra. He's really dramatic about everything.
I'm going to crash a planet.
I don't know. Have you seen, as far as Star Wars goes with Kylo Ren, have you seen the mock-up of all the Star Wars posters so far?
No.
And how in The Last Jedi, Luke is the big looming face in the background.
Wait, yeah.
And every other one has had the villain in that spot.
True. But now as far as being the Merciless, I'm going to crash a planet into another planet because fuck you, that's why.
Yeah. One thing is, like, obviously some tricks you can do to avoid the players immediately attacking the villain regardless of whether or not it makes sense at that time. Like, we're at a diplomatic council and everyone is supposed to talk their problems and maybe we can come to peace. The villain shows up with his retinue. I take out my concealed laser sword and decapitate him.
You start off, don't call him the villain.
Yeah.
Just name drop a person, a diplomat from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then just note on the way out he kicks a puppy,
Well, the other thing is because it's a space opera thing, there's technology and you can have, like, for example, one staple is the speech of the villain, and so like have them broadcast speeches and things like that. Our glorious empire shall destroy our enemies.
It doesn't have to be them, but their presence has to be everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's
thus say we shall crush the rebellion.
Yeah, and have
Dweenar, the evil space wizard,
and also and have like posters of them all over.
Exactly.
Propaganda posters.
Or if you want the big bad to show up on some level, independent of actually physically appearing, the players come up on the Star Wars kind of did this on the aftermath of a terrible, terrible act.
Yes, that's another
good
thing.
Pointedly perpetuated by the main, the main villain's right hand man, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's another one. Is also the henchmen. Have henchmen show up and be like the punching bag for the players. The main thing you need to do face-to-face things, but like the players should earn that face-to-face confrontation with the villain, and to structure it so that assume they're going to try and laser sword them immediately, but make it really fucking hard for them to do that, and give the you can also do fake outs like holograms and robot duplicates and shit like that, because they're fucking villains. They're gonna be assholes like that.
Or have it happen in a very public space with a lot of heavy guard.
Yeah, and so the players,
not even the evil guards, the good guy guards,
Yeah.
and the bad guy's there, but he's not doing anything wrong. So it's kind of like assaulting somebody in front of a police station. They may be a total douchebag, but
The main thing, the differences between an RPG and the fiction is that in the fiction, the main characters, are not like lemmings that jump at the nearest opportunity to die in spectacular fashion. But in RPGs, players are like, I can just make another laser jockey. Yeah,
I attack the space shark.
Yeah,
Major lizard.
Yeah, so players don't give a shit if their character lives or dies to a certain degree if it's worth it,
Yeah.
So if it proves a point, if they're petty,
or if it annoys the GM.
Yeah.
Or if that's a shark worth dying on.
Exactly. So
look at that shark right there, Ross.
Yep.
That's one worth dying over.
Yeah, it is. So the villains have to be really extra. You have to have established the stakes pretty early, very high stakes. Then you got scale. Like you need to have a variety of settings, not just geography, but also sort of like thematically. Like you have a desert crime planet.
You have to have a desert planet.
Yep,
always
City planet.
Okay, city planet. So video game level tropes. Fire planet, ice planet, blah blah blah.
Asteroid belts,
and then thematically, crime planet, utopia planet. Factory planet,
False Utopia planet.
Always
fun.
Yeah, do both Utopia and False Utopia,
and then do the False Utopia first, and then hit the Utopia. They're paranoid to fuck about everything.
Crime planet that's actually Utopia.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm liking that one.
Yeah.
Everything's perfect here. Just don't go in that room over there.
Hunger Games planet. Battle Royale planet.
arena planet.
Yeah.
War World.
That's another one.
Yeah. And
you get the idea. So, the players should have to be going from planet to planet to planet.
And ships are really important.
Ships are really important because they do take the swashbuckling thing of lots of different islands or continents, i.e. planets. And so there's space battles. That's another thing.
At least one boarding action.
Yeah.
Boarding action.
The bad guys' ships have to be gigantic and intimidating.
Oh yeah, they have to be very pointy. It's a very important thing. Good guy ships are more rounded. Bad guy ships pointy as fuck.
Yeah.
That is a thing.
That is a thing.
That is very much a thing.
So and have a variety of different adventure types too, not just we're doing boarding action number 18. Dungeon crawl 18.
A psychic parasite is stowed away on our ship, and we have to find it before it's too late.
Well, look at Star Wars. First, it goes from Luke's point of adventure. First, he's investigating these droids. And he's just like, I'll talk to the local hermit. He might know about these droids and what their message. And then it's like, we have to go, escape. And so it's running away from the bad guys. And then it's the dungeon crawl. We have to get through this, where we have to infiltrate this hardened dungeon, get the prisoner out, and then escape. And then it's like,
and now the dungeon's coming for us.
And now we're having the big ass battle at the end. So it's a variety. It's multiple different adventure types. Just in A New Hope. So
investigation to dungeon crawl to dogfight.
Yeah. And you could do similar. Empire Strikes Back. It's starting with the military.
It starts with the survival story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, survival. Yeah, you're right.
It starts with the survival story. Then it starts with the battle that you're going to lose.
Yeah.
And you're just buying time.
Yeah, the heroic
rearguard action.
Yeah. So
and then your group's at its lowest.
Yeah.
And then you do the whole find someone who knows how to solve your problem.
Another investigation.
Everybody lays low. After fashion.
So that's another thing is having a variety of adventure types. So that's sort of important because you don't want to do the same thing because and it's really easy, especially in RPGs, to dungeon crawl of the week or murder mystery of the week,
monster of the week.
Hey, but that's sort of
another story.
Yeah. I think also having a variety of player archetypes that are valid. Star Wars does have the problem that the Jedis are more powerful than the other characters, and every RPG based on Star Wars has had this problem because it's all about the Jedi, and everyone else is sort of their retinue. They're kind of,
or in other words, the Jedi are the magic users.
Yeah.
And every other class sucks.
So you can do better, is what I'm saying. So in Ashen Stars, there is a psychic, mystic character type, but we'll see how well they're balanced.
They look pretty relatively nerfed because you have to invest so much into the boss model.
And I can resurrect, but I have to invest points into that.
Right, and that. Yeah. So also lots of alien species. You could do or character backgrounds it maybe. Because, again, I would say, Battlestar Galactica always qualify as a space opera.
The original, especially.
Yeah. There's two versions. Yeah. One is, the original, the 70s version is super space opera.
They at one point go to a planet that's literally an old Western set they were reusing, okay?
Yeah.
Come on.
That's what we're doing for Ashen Stars, by the way.
Awesome. An old
It's
Western
awesome.
set.
Yeah, well, there's synth cultures, which are basically resort planets that went native, essentially. So imagine people who are, this is our Westworld planet, and then the war happened, so we're isolated. So we've all got together. We decided we're gonna fucking LARP all the time. You're gonna be in character, and if you don't be in character, we imprison you.
Nice.
So yeah. That's
Nerds.
Yeah, basically. But then, of course, their society rebels. Some people are like, we don't want to be cowboy cosplayers the rest of our lives, and that kind of thing.
Nice.
So,
Well, you shouldn't have moved here then.
so you don't have. So aliens are a really good way of doing this. Alien species, but if not, have a lot of different ways for characters to differentiate themselves. Even in Firefly, you use social class.
Everybody has a role,
Yeah,
a specific role on the ship, which is kind of a very game group thing to do.
Oh yeah. You can, but their backgrounds are varied too. Is what I'm.
Oh yeah,
talking
no,
about.
definitely.
You have like,
But a ship's crew is a great way to differentiate the different crew members.
yeah, no, it's the closest thing I can think of to like the classic RPG class roles. Tank, healer,
Mechanic.
direct damage dealer. I.e. wizard, nuker, whatever you want to call it.
Support.
Pilot.
Support. So yeah, in the ship, you want to have the pilot, you want to have the gunner, you want to have the engineer, and then of course the doctor, and then blah blah blah. So so give characters not only a class, some sort of specific role for the team, but also give them the chance to have a lot of different backgrounds that really make their characters interesting. So again, Firefly, you have like the doctor on the run, the high class rich guy, and his sister, who's the experimental test subject, a mysterious person, and then you have the veterans, and then then the preacher,
Veterans, mercenaries, preachers,
Former criminals.
yeah. So
prostitutes.
Jane.
So and that's all with just humans. So you with aliens, you could have multiple. You could have like I'm the traditional alien, or I'm the rebel alien who's rebelling against my traditional ways, and that kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of different variety. So
I like to pretend to be human.
and also, space opera in tone. We haven't really talked about tone. Like Battlestar Galactica is a really good example of that, because the original is kind of a campy, having
Star Wars
fun.
knockoff.
It has some real dark moments, but usually it's problem of the week.
Yeah.
We stop off at this planet. Here's the theme. Here's the problem, and then Cylons show up, or they were already there. And the new one is very large, meta plotty, rather dark, paranoid kind of stuff. So,
but yeah, I mean, it's almost not like it's more of the setting than the genre. I mean, I would. Yeah.
It rides that line to where the new Battlestar Galactica is more like a soap opera in space than it is a space opera.
Yeah.
Even though that was the origin of the term of space opera.
But, like, especially towards the end, it gets more space opera-y with the higher stakes and the fate of human species, and also the crazy bullshit that they have at the end. But we won't get into that. But, like, I'm also thinking Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah,
That's definitely a space opera.
Oh yeah.
it's a space opera run. Taika Waititi does comedy, so he runs it as a comedy specifically, which is really cool. I love it. So
Yeah, but it's also as a genre, it's genre of space opera.
Oh, yeah.
not just setting, because it's about reclaiming the throne. It's about reclaiming the rightful. There's a usurper. First, it's Loki, and then it's Hela. And then like dealing with Hela sitting on the throne and in being in control and saving the people of Asgard.
Even though technically she is the rightful one to sit on it.
Yeah, well, in the legal sense, but not in the moral sense.
Right.
Because she's, a genocidal maniac.
the tradition was broken and altered by the king at the time, and she was not the right fit.
Yeah. So the king made the moral choice, not the legal choice, and now it's everything.
Sorry, Joffrey should not be king.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you sure? There's worse. Worse can happen.
Yeah. But yeah, it handles it very humorously. I read an article talking about how the director's approach was based on sort of his Maori culture, where it's the person who's the person who's being made fun of is the person trying to be smart or cool. So whenever Thor's trying to outsmart the Grandmaster being cool or better than anyone else, he's ridiculed. But when he becomes more humble and more accepting, like he does better. So
yeah. Actually, the same article is really good.
Okay, yeah.
No, it's just like beat me to it.
Yeah. Aha. So yeah.
But yeah.
Any other thoughts on Thor Ragnarok? I mean, you still also have gritty elements too, like fucking Valkyrie's backstory.
Right.
And
Doug. Poor Doug.
Yeah.
A lot of it's played for laughs.
And again, the fact there's also dive bars and shit.
Yeah, again, getting like in the cantina gritty element. So.
Which is why, I'll talk about the first new Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
What did it for me is just, there's a scene where they go to a diner. Well, not a diner, but like a pub. There's like a bar and grill. And it's like it's got.
You're talking about the sort of back story when they're still building the Enterprise. And
when Kirk's in the academy, but there's literally like, besides the advanced technology, this could be any bar and grill in America right now. Mm-hmm. The menus are holographic and they have TV and entertainment from other planets, but it's still. Yeah, it's still a burger and fries place.
Yeah,
Cardassian sunrise.
Yeah,
that's a good point. So it's again that variety of settings. You need to have a very broad setting universe.
I was going to say for the Thor Ragnarok, one of the things that really helps with the variety of settings is we jump from Earth. Earth, we fucking know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they show us some like different varieties of it. They show us New York. They show us the fjords in Norway.
Yeah,
very different places.
That's a good point, yeah.
And then they make a broader jump by going from the fjords to Asgard. And then from Asgard to...
Sakaar.
Yeah.
Sakaar.
To Sakaar, which is like... It isn't just a junk world. It is this boxy, pink plastic, pastel plasticky junk, bright colors and all that. But it's still junky. Run by a guy who doesn't come off as super noble or ignoble. He's just kind of a selfish prick.
He's just Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, he's Jeff Goldblum.
And he's more of the Jabba the Hutt kind of style overlord.
Without the whoa.
Well, I mean, different style, but like functionally.
But I mean, and I think a lot of what helps sell this is the fact that
a petty tyrant.
Yeah. Again, a lot of the direction of playing out of the characters, where it's more. It was done as a lot of what's the word? Shit. Improvised. A lot of it was really improvised. Yeah. Great word to get caught up on. A lot of it was very improvised, which kind of which undercuts the previous Thor movies, where it's this like the comics, the pseudo Shakespearean BS. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of helped us step away from Asgard more easily.
Yeah,
and so we kind of get a meta shifting of worlds and a direct shifting of worlds, but it's like really well balanced.
Yeah, I'm actually, by having this discussion, I'm realizing I need to have my Ashen Stars game move to other planets. Like, you're all going to be saving this one planet, but in order to do so, I'll have to have jobs on other planets. So you'll have to go. I mean, in the first job, your players are going to the moon of the planet, so that's something. But yeah, I've realized now I'm going to have to branch out a little farther.
Or does the entire planet have to be the same theme park?
No.
Sometimes going to a different part of the same planet, you can attest to this, is like going to another fucking planet.
Yeah, like in Sakaar, even. First you have the junkyard, which is very junky.
Yeah.
Then you have the slave pits.
Which are kind of junky?
Well, actually, first you have Grandmaster's Palace, which is very high end.
Yeah.
Then the slave pits, then the arena, then the streets of Sakaar, which are like this dense metropolis with or city with these festivals.
Kind of a weirdly shabby chic kind of aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. So
Yeah, it a lot of variety in Sakaar itself.
Yeah. So I think we can stay on the same world. It's just there's a western area on the opposite side of the planet. There might be something radically different.
Yeah. Well, even Asgard had different places.
Yeah, that's true.
The woods.
It had that massive forest, and that fortress. That's a good point. Variety is the spice of life when it comes to the space opera, and then just very heroic stakes. Some sort of if you're doing the genre, it has to be about lawful government and usurpers. Bad people being in charge essentially, and taking that back. So normally do that through monarchy, the crown, but Because even at the end of Thor Ragnarok, spoiler alert, Thor wins, and he's and there is sort of like a new civil order based on it. So yeah, I guess we're getting a little bit kind of spoilery territory, but
You already gave away the biggest spoiler, Ross.
what?
Thor wins. What?
Yeah, a Marvel superhero movie where the hero of that's named after it wins.
This is a false flag operation.
Yeah, we're just trying to.
We were paid by Marvel.
Let's see here. Anything else?
Yeah, you guys will find out that RPPR got bought out by Disney last week.
We're gonna have loot podcasts. You get a random podcast if you spend time. No. So we are. One other thing is also lots of not just the villains have to be really extra. I think a lot of the minor characters have to be pretty like colorful, like in terms of like standing out, because you can't just have generic good guys or bad guys. You have to have really in Star Wars, obviously.
They wear their entire character on their sleeve,
yeah,
including the name. Episode 2 had Sleaze Bagano trying to sell people death sticks.
Exactly.
Yeah, or Han Solo, like I stand.
Well,
alone.
he's a main character, but Chewbacca is a pretty like he stands out in a crowd, shall we say? But even Lando, he's a complex character, interesting character, but very dramatic, very memorable.
From the first moment we meet him, he pulls an overdramatic,
Who wants a beer?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the original. He just like starts off with you scum sucking low down, and then how you doing?
Flash Gordon in the movies, of course, had the Brian Blessed's character, the Hawk General guy.
Yeah.
The best character in the entire movie.
Exactly. Exactly. See, that's what I mean. So, like, everyone needs to be really, like, dramatic. So, I know for my Ashen Stars games, I have, like, cowboys, people who are rebelling against the cowboy cultures, and then people who are worshiping a dead hero from the war. Like, they're called, the hero was Karen, and so they're the Karenites, and they believe that she's a messiah. So basically, I'm picturing they're worshiping essentially a dead player character, a dead shepherd.
Nice.
And like, she turned into 3 different colored energy beams, and we think she'll come back and save the galaxy again.
In the future DLC,
She'll be riding a gorilla that wears a jetpack
Divine
and
Life
shoots.
Channel. That's what DLC means. So, but yeah, so very, very sort of characters that pop out, obviously Firefly has a lot of those too, like that crazy bounty hunter talks to himself. Is that right? That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then Cowboy Bebop is filled with them.
Yeah.
And then
even the damn dog.
Yeah. So, things have to be larger than life. I think that's the biggest takeaway from that.
Yeah. It has to be the opera side of it.
Yeah, don't worry about the science at all, because space opera, all the science
works
is set dressing.
It works because.
Yeah, you have warp drives and laser swords.
Nanomachines, son.
Yeah. This is why Eclipse Phase is definitely not space opera.
No, it's not.
Even though it takes place throughout the galaxy thanks to the Pandora Gates, which are hand-wavium sci-fi bullshit. Aliens did it. But Eclipse Phase is definitely not, because one thing, there's a lot of they take these sci-fi, okay, if you have this technology, you can do this, this, and this, and this, and that would totally fuck up society and be really weird, like if you have...
if you could change bodies.
Yeah, if you could change bodies, if you could just copy your mind and, infinitely fork yourself. And there's obviously, for one thing, there's no one lawful government or one lawful evil empire. There's multiple. It's about exploring different forms of governance. Everything from anarchy to fascist, totalitarian governments.
Give fascism a chance.
Yeah, no, never.
Note to self: run Eclipse Phase game with Fork Family Reunion.
So, Eclipse Phase is definitely not
Medea's Fork Family Reunion.
Oh God,
Jesus.
No. I refuse.
So, Eclipse Phase is trying to be more of the sort of Star Trek the TV show style science fiction,
kind of that hard sci-fi
procedural
approach.
or noir or survival horror. So I mean, I could see you twisting Eclipse Phase to become a space opera, but
I think you'd have to go through the gates, wouldn't you? I mean,
yeah, it would definitely be like an exoplanet thing. Like, you'd have to ignore a lot of stuff.
taming a space whale seems like a pretty great space opera.
You don't need to tame them. They're intelligent. They're literally sapient beings. Like,
So negotiating.
they're
with space whales.
scientists. Yeah.
Let's go swim around the sun.
Yeah. See, that could be a space opera thing, swimming around the sun and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've been talking about. Space operas, they're cool and fun.
And there have been plenty of RPGs that have tried to do it in the past. I mean, obviously, the Star Wars one. There was one actually literally called Space Opera, I think, published in 1980. TSR dipped into that pool with Star Frontiers. I actually have somewhere the Alpha Dawn box set.
Spelljammer.
Okay, this one's
could be
a bigger question.
Yeah.
Because Spelljammer kind of uses that reverse Clark's Law logic, where sufficiently advanced magic resembles technology.
Yeah.
There was actually a D20 supplement for that. But no, I mean, one space opera game that I wish I still had a copy of, I bought it for like $2 at a Hastings, was Spaceship Zero.
Oh, was that the one that's all on one spaceship?
No. Spaceship Zero was done in the, I think, very beginning of the 2000s. It was basically, the conceit was, it was an RPG based off of an old radio show, which turns out to be revealing the true history of the universe oscillation before us. And it was very mythos heavy, actually. Only used the mythos in a very Flash Gordon sort of way.
The Cthulhu mythos?
Yes.
Nice.
So it wasn't deep ones. They were fish people from the Frog Star. And it was totally over the top old radio drama to, televised serial version of, space opera with mythos elements.
Interesting.
And they went with standpoints and everything. In fact, the guys that developed it were the main people behind the band Darkest of the Hillside Thickets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, same people.
I know one of those.
Yeah, so there you go. I'm just saying that was one that I saw a long time ago, picked up on the cheap and went, man, if I was gaming at the moment, this might actually be kind of fun. It's dumb, but it's fun.
Nice. Yeah, there's a ton of different games to do it in. I would say Spelljammer could be a space opera if you run the right campaign. Like, oh, this space elf kingdom is being overthrown by a lich. Go help the space elf prince, or you are the space elf prince and his buds, and you have to go reclaim your throne. See, that's a space opera.
Or one element could be you have to rescue the evil Illithid Empire is threatening to blow up a large cruiser that somehow got lost in the Flochiston, and they're threatening to light it on fire, and you have to go rescue them.
Yeah. So yeah, by itself though, there's not really an implied super conflict that would be the space genre setting. I mean, space genre is a type of plot more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, well, you do have the evil Illithid Empire.
Yeah.
That's like a good start.
There is an evil empire, but yeah. So you just have to add the good empire to contrast against it.
Why can't you say those words together, Ross? Evil Illithid Empire.
Evil Illithid Empire.
There you go.
Can't beat them if you can't say it.
So anyway, we'll be back with shout-outs and anecdotes.
Yay.
And we're back. I'm probably going to put in some dramatic music for that. So
We don't know what it is.
Yeah. Not even vaporwave. So
What?
It's epic wave.
Damn it.
I actually don't use vaporwave that much as music for these episodes. I've been doing a lot more jazz and stuff like that.
That's actually really good. So.
I'm just having variety. It's just trying to introduce you guys to new music.
Are you going to use some space jazz?
If I could find space jazz, I would do that.
Just don't call it by the name Lucasfilms. Please.
Anyways, we should get into the shout-outs. My first one is going to be a game that I have not yet played. I'm planning to make Shaun. I'm going to make Shaun learn how to play it and then run it for us. This is Conspire. It's a role-playing game from Alex Jarabek and Jake Brioche. Its tagline is Control the World, one story at a time. It's a hidden role storytelling game. Players delve into any moment of a conflict and just create conspiracy theories about it. So very Illuminati, upset the powerful, seize the power, play, conspire. So
bust out my Robert Anton Wilson on this shit? Or?
Yeah, it's very much Illuminatus trilogy.
Some Schrodinger's cat up in there?
Yeah, Church of Subgenius, kind of like get crazy. So
Go Discordian.
so it's a storytelling game, not a role playing game specifically. So we all have roles in it. So I think it plays a little like Quiet Year or something like that in terms of like us collaboratively making a story. I don't know. I've not had time to read the rules that carefully. That's why I'm making Shaun do it.
Oh, okay.
But we'll record it. We'll record at least one game. If we really like it, we'll do more. But we'll definitely do one because they were nice enough to send a review copy. So, anyways, Dan, you've also got something new.
I do.
And you're
It's perfect for Space Opera Day.
It is. So tell, what is it?
Well, I finally got my hands on a copy of Twilight Imperium 4th edition.
Woo!
After failing to secure one at Gen Con this year. And so I'm going to be making people play it with me at some point. So I'm just going to pass the books around. Who wants the lore book with all the art?
Give it to Shaun first.
Show me pictures.
The Learn to Play, which is the rules you need to know,
Jeez.
and then the actual rules reference book. All of it has art, guys. It's fine.
Yeah. So 3 booklets. How heavy is the box? I mean, it's a pretty large box.
It's about as heavy as the original one was.
Is it as heavy
5-7 pounds?
Is it as
Somewhere
heavy
in
as the
there.
Orient Express supplement for Call of Cthulhu?
Probably heavier than that.
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
Okay, so more than that. So like 10 pounds.
So you could like kill somebody with that thing.
Well, and they added some weight to it because if I can show you after we're done. They actually put in a plastic insert that lets you organize things to a degree,
Ooh.
whereas the box for Third Ed was just this soft cardboard layer that had a trench in it for you to put the little box that held all the cards in.
Oh, fun.
That just kind of buckled under the weight of the rest of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I like how that there's become this sort of third party aftermarket for board game organizers because there's been Kickstarters for these kind of things. Yeah, it's getting to the point where you need to get like specialized accessories just to keep the shit in track. Tackle boxes don't handle it anymore.
There were several booths dedicated to specific types of boxes at Gen Con. One of them had, and a lot of them had like special innovations or craftsmanship kind of work, thing like.
But it sounds like you don't need that now. So.
Not at least not right away.
Are there expansions coming?
They haven't said yet. Like they
Were there ones for the previous edition?
Yes, there were 2
Okay.
expansions.
So probably.
Yeah.
Well, the first expansion allowed up to 8 players, and I was actually watching a documentary on the development of TI 4th edition yesterday. It's only 40-some minutes long.
Did the company make it, or did someone independent make it?
Someone independent made it, but they did constant interviews for like the 2 years leading up to its release.
Wow.
Yeah. And they talked about the history of TI and all that fun stuff. I will find it and send it to you.
Yeah,
to
we'll
add
put
to
in
the
the
show
we'll
notes.
link
Definitely,
in the show notes.
So, yeah, they were talking about how even with the base game, it was sometimes difficult for your average player to get even 6 people at a table. So why bother adding 7 to 8 players in the initial box? Because in terms of content, almost everything except the 7 to 8 player rules are in this box from the last edition.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So right now it's just 6 players.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see just market necessity requires them not to spend as many resources.
Right.
Yeah. For the
and
some of the
part of the documentary was them talking about like, okay, what can the game look like if we tried to keep it at $100 budget like we did for Third Ed? What happens if we up it to $200 or $250? What happens if we try to Kickstarter it?
Yeah. What did they wind up doing?
The price point ended up being about $150.
Okay.
And so that's why it is what it is. And they wanted to include all of the races that they had developed up until that point. They kept it at 6 players because, if they do decide to do an expansion, they need a big draw. They kept some optional rules on, they had baked in how in the second expansion there was each race has its own class of capital ship with its own special rules. Now that's baked into the original game.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun for a weekend.
And I'm going to pass around the minis because
high quality,
higher quality because they 3D printed them out of plastic instead of casting molds for them this time around.
3D printing, revolutionizing tabletop play.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, no, these are really cool looking minis.
really good detail.
So, if you're a fan of big 4X kind of games in the tabletop variety, this is it. You know, if you want to play Master of Orion, but for realsies, kind of, this is it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Master Ryan actually has a board game now.
Yeah, but this is better.
Yeah.
I haven't played neither. I'm comfortable in saying that.
well,
Words for Friends also has a board game.
I was also watching just different reviews and things because, hey, I'm interested in playing this game. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into how other people have played it and how they get other people to learn it.
Yeah.
One reviewer was talking about how they're actually anticipating a Star Wars reskin of Twilight Imperium coming since Fantasy Flight owns rights to both Star Wars board games and they developed TI.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. Yeah, that could also help new players in because like it's easier to understand what the Rebels versus the Empire can do.
Right.
So, all right, interesting. So, next shout out, Shaun. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't often watch anime,
That's funny.
but when I do, I try to find something a little more, something a bit more of a premise than your standard fan service kind of. By fan service, I don't just mean TNA. Fan service just means you're fitting certain, expectations. Is there a giant robot that kicks all kinds of ass? That's fan service. So, I'm just saying.
as always, more fan service.
A giant robot kicking ass. That's fan service I can support. It's the other kind of fan service that gets a little gratuitous.
This one, it's
Looking at you, High School of the Dead.
Oh God! Just never say that name again. All right, but so an anime came out this summer. Creators, and it has kind of since I figured it'd be appropriate for the points I was bringing up and respect it plays with genre a bit and subgenre. The whole premise is it's ostensibly set in modern day a version of modern day Japan, but characters from anime, manga, video games, whatever, the entertainment that's being presented are being drawn into our world from their home dimensions and being told by this mysterious, very, fan art looking character to hunt down and confront their creators.
Interesting.
And they wind up in, without giving too much away, they wind up in two different camps, and a lot of them are representatives of specific subgenres. So you have your high adventure with mecha. You have your
Nice.
I'm not going to run away with mecha. You have, magical adventurer who rides a flying horse and shoots lightning bolts kind of stuff. There's a cyberpunk guy who is straight up out to fuck up his own creator because I realized that you wrote my story and you made me kill my own fucking daughter. One of my favorite bits, though, is early on, there's a magical girl. And you see, in a lot of anime, they kind of go into background destruction. The magical girl, magical girl subgenre doesn't really worry about power scaling. You just throw all your heart and everything into it, and everybody's fine at the end. So this girl just unleashes a massive fucking love blast or whatever, and almost levels a building. I mean, it's shit like that where they have to start thinking realistic.
These all sound like Base Raiders characters.
It gets basic.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ross.
But then I'm not going to give away exactly what they do, but it starts getting super meta when they start trying to experiment with how much power the original creators still have over their characters. And so without spoiling it, it goes for 20 some odd episodes. It is on
Amazon Strike?
Yeah, Amazon Strike.
Okay.
So it's an interesting bender. It bends a lot of the perspective on these subgenres and what they're expected to provide.
Yeah.
And the characters start to develop as people because they've been in contact with our world now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Nice.
I want to watch that now.
Yeah.
Anyways, Tom.
Basically, I find myself oftentimes on Netflix just like, surely there's something that can catch my attention for the next couple hours.
Okay.
And there's a series there.
The ennui that is Tom.
Yes, indeed. Because I have
Tom Wee?
Tom Wee.
Ennui.
There we go.
It's a new energy
Yeah,
drink.
and I found there's a series on Netflix called Raiders of the Lost Art, which is a documentary series, which I love. It's about famous art thefts, and also not just that, but it goes over the history of the art that was stolen, whether it's still missing or whether it was recovered.
Spoiler alert, it probably is.
Yeah, some of them are found, some are not.
Some are. Some aren't. Most aren't.
But yeah, like they do a whole episode on Fabergé eggs,
Yep.
and the missing ones. And like the 1911 theft of the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that's
It sounds like a cool show.
It is. I kind of like true crime like my mom, but she's more into like serial killers. To me, it's heists.
Yeah.
I kind of like...
So you're saying that you've played a lot of games where heisting are involved?
I know, right?
Yeah. Actually, I haven't been playing Payday 2, and I don't like...
That's more serial killer than heist. Come on.
What? No.
You're not killing them because they're not people.
Exactly. They're law
Constructs.
They're
elementals.
projections of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You know what? I would totally commission someone like, draw me just a picture of the elemental plane of cops.
Exactly. No, that's definitely going to be a Base Raider supplement. At some point. I'm committed to doing that. So, Raiders of the Lost Art. Sounds like a cool show. I have another shout out. This is actually more of a sci-fi one. I probably should have started with that one. Syntheside. When robots are gods, killing humans is fair game. Role-playing game by Dustin DePenning and Zachary Robinson. I received this is another review copy. He sent a really nice review kit. I put a photo up on my Twitter with the game, GM screen, USB, and some dice.
That is
custom
a
dice.
fancy logoed up box.
It is the fucking fanciest RPG review kit I've ever gotten. I've already interviewed Dustin about the game. Syntheside is a pretty rules-light game. It looks like it'll be easy to... I'll learn and run this, so I'm not going to...
Okay.
I'm not going to offload everything onto you, Shaun.
Oh, so I get the second string stuff.
You get Shaun.
Someone gets Spire.
Yeah, Sean gets the
Actually,
sloppy.
no.
Sean,
Conspire looks like it's up my
you
alley,
get
so-
sloppy.
Exactly.
Yeah, you get sloppy seconds, man.
Oh, no.
That is definitely virgin territory. All right?
Yeah. So, Syntheside is a sci-fi role-playing game. It's not really space opera. It's more of a gritty thing. But, space opera setting. Civilization collapsed long ago in the wake of mutant warfare. Survivors. It's very, very grimdark. It's more of a 40K kind of thing. So there's mega corporations, robots. Killing robots is a very serious crime. There is a cult of robots. So that's why it's Syntheside. Murdering synthetic beings. But you're the people who are called to do that. So you're called Sharpers. You're space criminals. It's got great art. It's got interesting rules. Let's see. Let's see if I can find
It looks nice and shiny.
It does. It does look nice and shiny. So, yeah.
Maybe perhaps chrome.
Yeah. See, guns. Anyways.
Good. It's got guns.
It does have guns and laser swords, plasma swords. So look for an AP. We'll definitely do at least a one shot of this, so you guys can hear what it is like in play. So, anyways, that's my second shout out. Dan, do you have another one?
Yeah, I have also watched anime because, my life in grad school usually consists of work and then coming home and either doing classwork or playing a PC game with Netflix in the background.
Yeah.
So one of my background watchings has been Fate Zero.
Mm-hmm.
It's, for those of you familiar with Fate. Yeah.
Is that one of the ones where everyone's in an MMO and they're...
No.
Okay.
This is the one where, once every so often, a holy grail type artifact shows up to grant people's wishes. And
everyone's trying to get it.
Yeah, and people command a special familiar that's actually based on some historical legendary figure.
Totally not a stand.
It's been numerous RPGs and iterations of anime and manga and light novels. And
I think that's on my queue. So it's worth watching.
I mean, I've enjoyed it so far. I tried watching it in an order that I thought made sense, which apparently is the wrong order because anime.
Anime.
But I actually do like this one because they do one of the legendary figures is King Arthur.
Nice.
So
okay, cool.
And also, one of the other characters is actually my spirit animal when he goes on a rant about why must he wear pants outside. So,
nice.
We can all sympathize with that. So, anyways, Shaun?
I think the only other one I really had to drop right off the bat. Sorry, it's another anime. Originally called Kakegurui, also known as Gambling. It is available on Netflix, by the way. It was actually Netflix exclusive. The whole thing about this is, okay, I will admit, it is fan servicey in the way we discussed earlier, in a weird fucking way.
I'm not sold.
Yeah.
No, okay. So the entire premise is this, and this might be more of a niche market. Somebody moves into a high school where they've got specialty high school. We take that marker off, where everything is based on gambling.
Okay.
It starts off if you...
So is it just like Akagi only for all types of gambling?
Sort of.
So,
only more fucked up. So what happens is, transfer student comes in, surprise, surprise, and teams up with kind of a point of view character who has been put so far into debt that he is effectively considered a dog by other students. She basically rescues him, rescue dog, and goes on a rampage going after the highest rated gamblers in all the school. That's most of the series right there. And it follows one of those tropes that gets used sometimes, but not to the hilt to the degree this one does, where she's in it for the thrill of the fight. She literally doesn't give a shit if she wins. She is batshit insane, obsessed with gambling. One of the weirdest things about this are the fucking faces everybody makes, because they start off like these kind of same-facey, plain,
Anime face.
Yeah, and then they start getting really excited about things, and it goes full-on Alucard from Hellsing crazy face within minutes, and then it has the same attitude. You can literally hear Alucard almost talking through the main character. She's like, make your bet, hurry, hurry, hurry.
Yeah.
It is just... it's kind of supposed to express more the extreme passion a lot of people get into with gambling, which I actually don't personally relate to, but
yeah,
it's really interesting to see this expressed in a new way.
Interesting.
It's over the top. Elements aren't in creating life or death, struggles. It's more about just how freaking intense everybody gets about, whatever specific weird type of gambling they've invented.
Interesting. Sounds entertaining. I'll probably watch one episode or two.
The fan service gets a bit strong as a bit of warning on that, but not in the way that like some of the more blatant ones do. It's just...
Is it as bad as High School of the Dead?
No.
Okay.
It's different. It's also kind of different from it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, Tom, any others?
Yeah. Again, another series of documentaries, which I love, is a show the BBC put out called Air Crash Investigations.
Air Crash. Okay.
Which is, it's a series about going over different, air disasters. I didn't think there's so many, but they've got like 4 or 5 seasons on this right now.
All right.
And I just it's more like they go over they recreate what happened, and then they go over the actual investigation. But I found there's 2 versions of the show. There's the original BBC version, which I recommend, and then there's one that's redubbed for an American audience, which I don't recommend, because the guy that does the American version is kind of like just like at this point everything was in the hands of the pilot and what he did in the next 5 minutes. Well, the British version is like, everything now is all left to what the captain does. Like the British,
So the British was more extreme.
way more extreme.
Interesting. Usually it's the other way around, because I've seen clips of like nature documentaries, like the BBC version versus the American one. So the BBC, and here we have the woody thrushbird who is mean in there, and the American, look at this bird, and what is he? Oh my God, he's about to eat this bug. Whoa! Can we get a close up on that bug eating?
No. This one,
I'm not exaggerating.
The American one was the overly calm, and the British guy was it's like everything, it's like hundreds of people's lives were down to what the captain did in the next few seconds. It's like, Jesus, all right.
Nice. Sounds fun. So, next up, I'd like to mention 2 Patreon creators that I met at. I met a lot of them at Patreon. But I'd like to mention Bob and Ninja Kitty. Bob does a comic called The Demon Underground. It's about demons that are underground and they're fighting. And I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. But it's got good art. Fantasy, horror, urban fantasy kind of thing. Because they have guns, but demons. So. And then, but she's really cool to hang out with. She lives up in Chicago, so she's interested. My plan is to do like a crossover podcast at some point and get some of them and run like red markets or something for some of these people. I tried to organize it at Patreon, but like there just wasn't time. So that would be cool. And then Ninja Kitty, she does erotic art on Patreon, and she's really cool to hang out with. She lives in LA, and it was just cool. Hey guys, and so that's a brief shout out for that. Dan, do you have any others? Good.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Shaun, any others?
I think I'm good.
Okay, I have more. Tom, do you have any others?
I am done.
Okay, good. You can get through these real quick. So, The Delirium Brief, it's the newest Laundry novel. I'm not quite done with it. I'm mostly done. It's really good. It's Bob's back as the narrator, unlike the last two novels where we had his wife as one and then entirely new character. For the last two novels. So this back to Bob, and he's the eater of souls, and he's dealing with a fucking major problem, and it's back to, if you like the first ones because of the spy thriller stuff, they're way more into that this time. And yeah, it's getting intense. It's bringing back a lot of characters from previous books. The villain from the Apocalypse Codex is back. It's if you like Laundry, it's a must read. Then a movie I actually saw in LA because I found out they had Korean. There's a movie theater there, AGV, that does first run Korean movies, but with English subtitles,
Which sounds awesome.
It does, yeah. So I saw The Outlaws.
Oh God!
What?
You talked about?
I did talk about this. It's a gangster movie based supposedly on a true incident in 2004 in Seoul, where the main character is this cop with these enormous arms. I mean, like, he's just like fucking swole. But his method of dealing with the gangsters is to basically be cop dad to all these crime children. Because like, oh, did one of these gangs stab someone else in the other gang? Okay, gang leaders, come here now. Play nice. Stop stabbing each other. Like, literally, that's how he treats them. And then, of course, the evil Chinese gangsters come in, and those poor hapless Korean gangsters can't just deal with these Chinese gangsters. Like, it
kind of puts me in mind of like stuff I was over here when I was living in Texas about the worries about established drug dealing rings being taken over by Mexican syndicates or whatever, and how they were so much more cruel and vicious. And I'm like, these were not good people to start with.
Exactly. Yeah. So apparently, three Chinese guys with a hatchet can take over every Korean, or like multiple gangs in Seoul.
So were they triads or like pseudo triads?
They're the Venom Gang.
Oh
yeah. So it's an entertaining crime movie because the main actor is very charismatic, as this lovable rogue, dirty cop who's not.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Hey.
I mean, he doesn't. It's just ridiculous. But it's an entertaining movie. So whenever that comes out, it'll probably come on Netflix sooner or later because I saw another Korean movie, The Wailing, which is on Netflix, and it's a 2.5 hour supernatural horror film about this small farming town that is literally plagued. People start getting these boils on their body, and then they go insane and start murdering people. And so it's a curse. And so a cop, another guy, has to deal with this, try to figure out. And so he teams up with the shaman. So it gets into like the native shamanistic religions of Korea.
It weirdly sounds slightly parallel to certain parts of Higurashi when they cry.
Oh yeah.
A little bit, not precisely, but some of the basic elements they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So, and Wailing's on my list. So
yeah, no, it's the ending. I thought it was a little weak, like needlessly contrived a little bit, but like it's like beautiful cinematography, beautiful. Like there's an exorcism scene in the middle with a shaman going, and it's like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? This is crazy. It's really cool. So let's see if I have anything else. Nope.
All right. Okay. So I would like to close the my version of the recommendations with saying, folks, watch School Living Cold. If you don't know what it is, just watch it.
That's another anime.
But
I'm watching his face as he said that, and I got very uncomfortable.
I just want to know what people think about it when they don't know what to expect ahead of time.
So, anecdotes. We've been playing a bunch of different games recently.
I must want you to talk about the captain.
The captain, yes. In Ashen Stars, there are 5 roles for player characters. 5 ship roles and 5 ground on the ground roles. And you're supposed to pick 2 of them, 1 ship and 1 ground side. And the ship ones are like pilot and gunner and
tactical officer.
Yeah, and then there's medical doctor, which is the same on both. So But I'm running 2 groups of it, but there's only 4 players in each group. So there's got to be an NPC who does the other job. And so for some reason, in one of the groups, no one took strategy coordinator, which is the Captain Kirk role. No one took leader. So I made Tom. Do you want to describe it?
It's Captain Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
Captain Gary. He is Ross does the voice for him, obviously, but he's a guy we found sleeping under a bench.
Yeah. And because the players are just wanting to do what they want to do anyway. They're not going to really respond to like, I'm tough captain guy, you do as I say. And I don't want to do that as a GM. I don't want to be ordering players around. So I'm just like, yeah, you signed him up basically to have a name on the ship register.
Well, apparently he knew some enough people that he could actually get us some jobs.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh yeah, you can be. No, you're our tactical officer, which means you're the captain.
Yeah.
You find us the jobs we do, and we'll totally obey you.
Hobo puppet captain.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It's hobo puppet. Yeah. So that's been fun. Yeah.
It's kind of fun that every time we contact us, oh hey, you're not replacing me, are you?
Yeah, that's been the shtick with him so far. Yeah, so that's been fun. Dan, you want to describe? We haven't actually. We're going to play Wednesday. I think if everyone gets together because holidays. I don't know, but I assume so.
I'm good for Wednesday.
Yeah,
I'm not going anywhere Wednesday.
So if the other players are fine, then we're fine. So
Yeah.
But anyways, do you want to mention your character? Or?
I hadn't settled on a name yet, but he's the giant
The Tavik, I think.
Tavik, yeah,
Giant armadillo people
giant armadillo
with
man.
battle frenzy.
Yeah, with battle frenzy, and I'm the doctor. Ship side, and on ground side, I'm still the doctor, and I'm also the PR guy. What's the role is that?
Face.
Yeah, I'm the face.
Or the culture officer or something like
Something
that?
like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how I want to make that work, especially because, I'm half a ton and 7 feet tall, and another member of the party is
You go berserk like doing CPR. Lift you! Boom, boom.
He's like,
Crushing my ribs, motherfucker!
You can talk. That means you were faking it.
I jogged him too hard.
Yeah.
Or how big is your character, Shaun?
He's like, 3 feet tall or something?
Yeah,
he's
you're
like
a Mosval or
Fosmal, yeah, the
Fosmal,
psychic little buggers.
Yeah.
So somehow, if I need to perform surgery on you, my fist is half your size.
You probably have something like sort of okay.
No, I'm just more entertained by the idea of giant ham-fisted.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying you probably realistically you would
I'll
have
assist.
some kind of thing that's some kind of mechanical or electrical mechanism which you do the surgery on a larger scale, but it translates to a smaller scale with smaller pointed. Yeah. Or you could just be slap.
Slap medicine.
Nano bandages. You guys haven't picked gear out yet, so
Not yet,
we'll have
no.
to do that. But yeah. So that's something to look forward to. This is going to be a mini campaign. I'm going to try and do 3-4 sessions per group, so 6 to 8 sessions total. And then after that we'll probably do Tales from the Loop next. Try and do some mini campaigns until everyone schedule. Well, Caleb's kind of calms down from red markets and. We can do one longer campaign, but I like having 2 groups. That's been fun.
Yeah,
so.
we might need to put him on a couch and feed him oxygen for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's not your fault, Caleb. It's not your fault.
And hug him and
hug him and give him lots of beer. He'll be fine. So
it's fine.
buy red markets.
Buy red markets.
Buy red
he
markets
needs
out.
you.
And review it and tell your friends and send photos if you've gotten the book, send Caleb a photo or post it to the Red Markets Facebook group so you can see that's showing up. So
you can
likes
see
that.
that the books are actually getting shipped, and so his tension eases just a little bit.
Exactly. No, those have been life for him. People have been doing the unboxing videos and photos and stuff.
Yeah, bring him back to life.
But anyways, this has been RPPR episode 148. When the fat alien sings, this is Ross Bate. Thanks for listening. Please join the RPPR Patreon. Check us out on Facebook. Review us on iTunes. And thanks for listening. Woo!